Alright. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Hero Friday, a weekly guide series in which I will learn all the characters in the game, with the help of the best players in the world, or Setmyx. Today on the menu we have Warden. So Setmyx is here. So could you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Setmyx. I am one of the best, if not the best Warden in the game currently. I'm part of the most successful 44 team UDA, and at the current moment I play nothing but Warden.
Sick brag. Okay, so to kind of roadmap this for you guys, we will be starting with 1v1. So talking about the general playstyle, matchups that the Setmyx deems important, the differences between the mediocre and the best Wardens, and in general punishes. So obviously parries and things like that, but also out of stamina punishes and wall throws and things like that. Then we will move on to 4v4, which will be feats, also playstyle of course, team fights, and whatever else our coach today will want to talk about. Throughout the show, you guys are in chat if you're watching on Twitch. Are encouraged to ask questions. Just make sure to add Alernakin in the chat, and if I think the question is important, I might bring it up in the lesson. Let us know if you think something is difficult to understand. Like for example, my cat. Great moment to activate. So let us know if something's difficult to understand. Maybe something hasn't been explained properly, or maybe you just don't understand, or maybe you're just curious, or something that we didn't bring up. Also, if you guys follow or donate in any way during the stream, I'm of course very thankful. But for the lesson itself, I turn notifications off. So if you want to wait to have your name on the fucking cat, to have your name on the stream, then you can wait until the end of the lesson, and then afterwards I will play only Warden for a few hours on the stream. Is everything alright with the cats? Doesn't seem like it. Alright, we're gonna have a more fun stream than I was expecting. Okay, so Setmyx, are you in the game? Because I forgot to add you.
I am in the game, yes.
Okay, this is professional. Wait, Setmyx. There we go. UDA Setmyx invited to the game. So we just do it in an arena map. Real quick. Where's the ring? When it comes to the rules, we have no damage on. But if you want to know any damage numbers,
That's alright. I know all the damage numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see my inputs on the screen. The only difference, by the way, if anyone doesn't watch the stream or something like that usually, or maybe if you're watching on YouTube, the only difference between my setup and a normal setup is that I have dodge on left stick press instead of having it on A. So that's why you might see me using that button a lot. But other than that, like when it comes to punishes and things like that, I hope this will be useful. Okay, Setmyx. So the general playstyle of, or just 1v1 in general, the general playstyle of Warden. What do I want to be doing?
Okay, so as Warden, you have one move that is pretty much your most important move, which is Shoulder Bash, of course.
Alright.
And with Shoulder Bash, the most important thing is, with that tool, you can control the pacing and the spacing of the entire match in almost every matchup.
Okay.
So what you want to do is mostly you want to keep your distance, keep your spacing, because as a Warden you have a really long range, not only with Shoulder Bash, but also with your dash heavy. So your level 1 Shoulder Bash already goes pretty far. I can show you that.
Oh yeah.
See that already tracked pretty far, of course. And you can also use your level 3 Shoulder Bash, which scores even further. So in pretty much every matchup, you just want to control the pacing, play it slow, and make sure that you always control the speed of the fight, pretty much with that tool.
Okay.
You also have 500 MS light attacks from every direction, so side lights, top light, and yeah, pretty much. And your zone attack is also 500 MS.
Okay.
What is worth mentioning, that's really important, since both your zone attack and side lights are 500 MS, they share the same parry timing. So most of the time you want to keep your guard either on the left side or the top side. It kind of depends on the matchup. For example, on PK, you can't really do that because of your zone attack. But for the most part, you want to keep your zone either on the left side or top side, so you don't share the parry timings.
Okay, makes sense. So do I ever want to use this highlight? Probably not, right? It's mostly the left side and the top one, right? And the zone.
Yeah, most of the time, yeah, pretty much. What is worth mentioning is that your zone attack has a better tracking than your side lights, so it tracks further, as you can see here, while your side lights probably whiff even on this distance. So you can use it for spacing, you can use it to punish. If for example, if someone dashes into you, you can use it pretty easily to punish those dashes.
Okay.
What's also really important to mention is the zone attack is a heavy parry, not a light attack parry, so it's definitely worth using a bit more than your side lights. It also deals more damage.
Okay. So when it comes to the just before we go on more to talk about shoulder bash, do you want to mention the chaining of the zone so that you cannot be guard broken?
Yes, so your heavy attacks, you can chain your zone attack into a heavy attack, either top or side, doesn't really matter. Either of them deals 40 damage, and the top one is unblockable. You don't really want to use your top one because the feint appears later, which means you can feint only way later in the animation, leaving you vulnerable for other attacks. So I recommend always going for side heavies, because they deal the same amount of damage. You can feint them pretty early in the animation and bypass a lot of recovery frames, or you can use it to kinda counter the guard break. So I can show you that real quick. I can zone my attack, and then pretty much
let's see if I whiff, if you whiff the zone. Let's do it again.
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, it still has 400 MSGB vulnerability, but most of the time people won't react to it, and then you get it like this, yeah. So it can't be done on reaction, but if you read that they will go for the guard break, which is what they will be doing most of the time, because you whiff your zone attack, you can definitely get a heavy off most of the time.
Okay. So alright, so that's all nice, but this is shoulder bash the character, right? So
exactly.
So I know that I'm supposed to be playing at a distance, right? So I want to be like at this distance, kind of like dashing around, right? Like throwing the shoulder bash, but not really committing to it. That's why I understand.
Exactly. So the thing is with shoulder bash, it's not really reactable because you can feint it a little bit into the movement, kind of like this.
Okay.
So you see the Warden starts moving forward a little bit. You can also see that on level 3. He starts moving forward a little bit, which makes it unreactable. So you don't really want to go for level 3 shoulder bashes way too much because it leaves you vulnerable to attacks. It has no hyper armor, and 500 MS attacks can interrupt it quite easily. So you have to be really careful when you use it. The thing is, it always forces a reaction pretty much because, like I said, it's not reactable. The thing is, it can be rolled away from if you charge a shoulder bash, but the rolls can be countered with a dash heavy. So you have to forward dash into heavy, but this cannot be done in reaction. So you will have to read that your opponent is going to roll, and if you read it correctly, you can get the dash heavy off.
Alright, so let's
demonstrate that.
Okay, yeah. So
pretty much like this.
Alright, let me try now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, most of the time you still want to go for level 1 shoulder bashes, and you want to definitely try to feint them into the slide, because they will force a reaction. So what you want to do is you keep your distance, dodge around a little bit, go for level 1 shoulder bashes, feint them occasionally, and eventually they will definitely try to interrupt it. If they try to interrupt it, you don't really have to feint on reaction to the move. You feint the shoulder bash anyways, and then you react to whatever they try to interrupt you.
Okay.
So, for example, if I dash forward and try to... Exactly, I could have parried that, but I was too slow on it.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
Pretty much like this. You can do that all the time. And worth mentioning is, of course, your dodges also have iframes. So if you keep your distance and dodge around, they might try to punish you either way with a zone or whatever there is, right? And then it can happen that you just dodge their attack randomly, which leaves them vulnerable for a shoulder bash punish. So if you dodge an attack, you always get a level 1 shoulder bash guaranteed.
Okay. So when it comes to so there's level 1 and level 3, right? So what about the level 2? Is that ever usable or not really?
The level 2, you can use the level 2 to kind of throw off the timing of your opponent, but you don't want to use it way too late. Because the thing is, what I tend to do with it is, if I go for something longer than level 1, I just like go mid-level 2 because they expect a level 3 shoulder bash, which messes up their timing. It still only guarantees sidelights, so it's the same punish as a level 1 shoulder bash. And it's also pretty risky because if you release it too late, it has the same dodge timing as level 3.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So to anyone who doesn't know, level 1 means just an uncharged shoulder bash. Level 2 means if you charged it a little bit, and the level 3 is when you charge it fully. And
Exactly.
if you charge it full, you get a top heavy, of course. And
Yep.
in every other situation, you get a the double
Side
side light,
lights,
yeah, which is 18
Yep.
damage.
Exactly.
Okay, so is there anything else you want to say about the playstyle, or?
Yes, important is occasionally you want to forward dash into dash heavy. You don't want to do that too often, but if you do it, there's players that try to preemptively interrupt your shoulder bash. And if you do your dash heavy, you usually interrupt their interruption attempt.
Okay.
The thing with that is it shares the same parry timing as a top light. So you really want to be careful when you dodge. You don't really want to use a top light anymore because the only thing it does, it deals less damage. It's a light parry, so you get punished even harder than you do with the dash heavy. So if you dodge forward, always use the dash heavy, not a light.
Okay. Alright, so that's cool. Alright, so this is the dash heavy. You can delay it very, a lot.
Yeah, you can delay it
a lot.
really long.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, anytime you do is make sure that you are delaying it, unless you're trying to use it against a roll, in which case, yeah, you want to buffer it as much as possible so you can get the dash attack, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about his forward dash recovery? Because sometimes, for example, I see a forward dashing, Warden dashing forward, I light attack and I just get parried. So
Yes. So the thing is with Warden's forward dodge, it's kind of risky to go for parries on a forward dodge because the dash heavy can be triggered 300 ms into the dodge, which is also his forward dodge recovery. So the thing is, if you try to parry an attack within those 300 milliseconds of the dodge, you won't parry the attack. You will perform a dash heavy instead, which means you will get hit, right?
Okay.
So you will have to be careful with that. But since it's only 300 ms, it's a really short recovery, which means if you kind of get the timing down for your recovery, you can get parries quite easily because 300 ms is little to nothing.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, this makes sense. Alright, so is there anything else about the playstyle itself that you use usually in games, or is that kind of it? Like playing safe, playing at a distance, making sure that you're not easy to be broken or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, if you play on distance, you need to kind of get the feeling down for how far HEB reaches. You don't really want to dash around if you're within GB range, because that just leaves you vulnerable.
Yeah, like here
So
I wouldn't
usually,
want to dashing around, but...
Yeah, exactly. That's really risky, because my GB tracks this far, right? So if we keep a certain distance, kind of counter guard break distance, you can just dodge around and perform shoulder bashes. That's really important. Also important and worth noting here is back dodges. If you back dodge into shoulder bash, you can lower your back dodge recovery. Usually it's 800 ms, but you can perform a shoulder bash, I think 300 ms into your back dodge. Plus then you have 100 ms feint recovery, so you have about 600 ms back dodge recovery, give or take. Which is a lot less, of course. Okay,
so do you get a zone of shoulder bash as well, right? Do you ever want to do that, or do you not want to? Because someone asked that in
chat. The thing is, yes, you do get 2 more damage, but you don't really see on the health bar if they now have 18 or 20 health, right? And a zone attack costs a lot of stamina. So it's, in my opinion, it's too risky to go for it because it can drain pretty much your entire stamina. But you can occasionally try your luck and try to get a kill instead of, and yeah, it's worth trying, but I don't really recommend it because it's way too risky.
So maybe if you're full stam, you could do it, but if you're anywhere below that, well, then you're gonna just go out of stamina. Like if I do it like, I'm gonna be out of stamina just because I used like 2 or 3 times or something. Okay.
And another downside to it is that you can't chain it into another shoulder bash, so you already lose your pressure. So, yeah.
Okay, so now, as one of the best wardens or the best warden in 1v1, right, and of course in other modes as well, but since we're talking about 1v1, what are some of the things, since you play ranked a lot, right? You're like, what, 4th, 5th right now on the leaderboards?
Right now I'm 3rd on the leaderboards.
Okay,
right now.
so you're the 3rd on the leaderboards, so then I'm sure you're playing against a decent amount of wardens in a Grandmaster or maybe in Masters or a Diamond or something like that. So if you could tell me what are some of the differences some of the playstyle differences that those players have, and what's kind of the difference between you and some of the like master or low grandmaster wardens.
Well, the thing is with the warden matchup, it's a rather difficult matchup which can go pretty much either way if you're not careful enough, because if you have 2 characters that can control pacing and spacing, it kind of depends on who plays more aggressive, right? But the thing is with warden, if you play aggressive, you also open yourself up a lot. So what you want to do is you kind of want to observe your opponent, keep your distance at the beginning of the game, and then usually you want to go for read punishes. You don't really want to react too much to their shit, because if you try to react too much, you will get punished way more often than they get punished, right?
Okay.
So what I tend to do is, if I read my opponent will go for a charged shoulder bash after a dodge, you can do things like throw a heavy attack, because your heavy is faster than the charged level 3 shoulder bash, and it will interrupt it. So what I see most Wardens do is, they see their opponent dodge, they go for the lights to interrupt the shoulder bash, but you can just throw a heavy, get way more damage, and still be safe. Plus, most people still expect the light, which means there is the potential that they mess up their parry timing and try to parry on light timing.
Yeah, and also you can also just feint your heavy sometimes, right? If they might just stop your charge and wait. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
So yeah, go on.
Yeah, what other Wardens also tend to do is they commit to a lot of shoulder bashes in order to open up their opponents. But they kind of keep forgetting that they open themselves up a lot while doing so. So if you whiff a shoulder bash, that leaves you vulnerable to a free guard break, which is on average about 30 damage, while a level 1 shoulder bash only guarantees 18 damage. So it is kind of a rather high risk for a mediocre reward, pretty much. But you have to consider that it can always be feinted, force a reaction. It can always be a level 3 shoulder bash, which guarantees 40 damage. So it really kind of depends on the reads you make if you play against another Warden.
Alright, so what about some other matchups then, rather than just Warden matchups, like a Warden Mirror matchup? So about some other matchups, like first of all, what do you think those people in general, like other Wardens, do too much? Like still in other matchups they commit too much to shoulder bash? Is that what you think? Or
well, the thing is with other matchups, there's a few matchups that differ a lot from the usual matchups.
Okay.
The best examples are Valkyrie, Nobushi, and Highlander, because those characters have defensive tools that can negate shoulder bash pretty well. So what you want to do against those is you have to play way slower, because you can really use your shoulder bash, because most of the time they can just dodge it or hidden stance it or do a lot of things about it without getting really punished. The best example I can give here is Highlander, because Highlander has, in offensive stance, 400 MS side dodges, which means he can just dodge on level 1 shoulder bash and still dodge level 3. So in those matchups, you have to kind of rely on making the right reads, have good reactions, especially against Nobushi, because every attack from Nobushi is reactable. And you just, in general, want to play it a lot slower and feint a lot more level 1 shoulder bashes. Now, the Highlander matchup is a bit more different, because when Highlander tries to defend himself, he leaves himself vulnerable for attacks. So if a Highlander just dodges randomly, you can punish every single dodge with a zone attack. And that is because your zone attack has really good tracking, a really good hitbox, and a lot of active frames. So for those who don't know what active frames are the amount of frames in which your attack can deal damage, pretty much. So, which means if your opponent dodges, usually after the dodge, he will just be able to dodge your zone attack if you were something like Kensei. But a Warden has a lot of active frames, which means even after their dodge, your zone attack will still hit.
Okay.
So you can punish pretty much every single dodge on reaction.
Okay, so do I ever, in those matchups, do I ever want to use shoulder bash, or is it just like never? Like obviously if they're out of stamina, but what if they're just, for example, low on stamina? Do I then maybe want to put pressure on, or is it still probably not?
Yes. It kind of depends on the stamina of your opponent, which means if your opponent goes low on stamina, they won't be able to use heightened stance anymore, which means they will be vulnerable to shoulder bashes a lot more than they usually are.
Okay.
So, and the thing is, which is not to be underestimated, shoulder bash is pretty fast, actually. It's 700 MS from when you start to glow orange till you start moving, but the move itself, your movement, is, I think, 300 MS, which isn't really reactable. So sometimes you can throw them off with not only your distancing, but also the speed of your shoulder bash.
Okay.
So sometimes they don't hidden stance or dodge on the on the time that is needed to dodge a shoulder bash, right? So you can throw them off occasionally, but I wouldn't throw it way too often, because like we said earlier, you leave yourself vulnerable to punishes.
Yeah. Also, a big thing to notice about those, I think, especially against like Valk and Nobushi, Highlander as well, but a little bit less, is that those characters have very difficult times dealing any damage to you. So the more patient you take it, the more the advantage you have, right? Because at least from like a Nobushi or Valk standpoint, since those are the characters that play, I'm happy if a Warden plays aggressively, right? But if he doesn't play aggressively, if he maybe sometimes shoulder bashes, but not too much, of course. If I'm like low on stun, then he might shoulder bash or something like that, commit to a shoulder bash. Well, then that makes it so that he might slowly deal damage to me, but I can never deal damage to him because I play, like a Nobushi or a Valk. Those have very difficult times dealing damage.
That is correct, yeah.
So yeah, Highlander is kind of similar, but he does have the offensive lights, right, which are pretty difficult to deal with, but you should be able to deal with that as well, right?
Yeah, the thing is with his offensive lights, they don't really have good tracking, which means it kind of plays similar to the other matchups where you just want to keep your distance, keep your spacing, and if he whiffs an offensive light, you get a free shoulder bash.
Okay.
So you can still play around those with proper spacing.
Okay, so
But,
okay,
yeah.
go on.
Yeah, the difference is for Highlander, like I said, every single move he does is punishable, while punishing, for example, hidden stance isn't really doable on reaction. So, yeah, against Nobushi and Valkyrie, you definitely have to play a lot slower, be way more patient, because they can really attack you. So, yeah.
Okay, so what about some of the other matchups against like the best characters in the game, like for example Gladiator, right? Because you cannot punish his zone very well, right? As compared to some other characters.
Yes.
So against like Warden or not Warden, Gladiator or Conqueror, what would you want to be doing against those characters? I would say that those are the ones. Well, Warden and Conqueror are like the most popular in ranked. So if someone's trying to like climb up, I think that would be helpful for them.
Yes.
We already covered Warden, so now Conk and maybe Glad as well.
Yep. So Conk kinda has to like adjust to your speed pretty much. You can say Shield Bash isn't reactable, that is true, but if you properly space your things once more, you can play around pretty much every single thing. Because if you keep your distance to a Conk, you can dodge on level 1 timing. Well, I say level 1, but I mean the earliest timing you can do is Shield Bash, because he has variable timings due to his dodges.
Yeah.
So if you keep your distance, let's say like previously out of range for a guard break, you can just back dodge whenever he goes for a Shield Bash, which leaves him vulnerable to a shoulder bash.
Yeah.
If you dodge and you go into a shoulder bash and you see he's going for the delayed shoulder bash, you can feint your shoulder bash and still dodge his delayed shoulder bash, shield bash, and get a free punish.
So it's a lot about the reading, right?
Yes, exactly. You can't react to it. It's not a thing. But with proper reads and proper spacing, you can play around every single option Conk has, pretty much. You have to be careful because he still has, of course, a fast top light, which can hit every now and then because of the neutral pressure he has due to his shield bash.
Okay.
But it's definitely a matchup that is pretty winnable for Warden.
Okay.
But it requires a lot of reads. You can't really do much on your action still.
Okay,
The thing is, though, that Warden still has the better punishes. Shoulder bash deals more damage, on guard break he gets more damage, on parry he gets more damage. So you have the advantage of the damage.
Okay, so basically I want to be at a safe distance, but once I'm in shoulder bash, I want to be reading my opponent because otherwise I might just get shoulder bashed or shield bash, I guess, yeah, Conk. So I just have to be very careful when I do start a shoulder bash. But I can deal with everything that he can do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about with Glad then? Because Glad especially on PC, but I don't know how many on console there are, but on PC there's a decent amount of gladiators and GM and masters as well. So if someone's trying to climb up the ranks or just in general maybe trying to play tournaments or something, they will most likely play against Glads. So what would that person want to do against Warden?
So Gladiator is a rather difficult matchup for Warden actually, because Gladiator also has the ability to control spacing, which means all of his attacks have really good tracking. They can track really far. They deal quite a bit of damage, and they're kind of hard to react to. So what you want to do is you still want to keep your distance, because if you keep your distance, that's the only way for you to actually punish his zone attack. What you want to do is you want to back dodge on read, of course, and if you back dodge, you dodge his zone attack and his slide attack on the same timing, which means if you have your safe distance which is, I know, difficult to maintain, especially against Gladiator. But if you manage to do so, you can back dodge pretty much an indicator, dodge guard break, dodge his slide attack, dodge his zone attack, and punish all of those options with a shoulder bash.
Okay.
The issue is, if you really go for this punish, you have to be really careful because you cannot feint your shoulder bash and block the heavy attack on time. So the heavy attack will track, it has the tracking for it, and it's not blockable if you dodge too late.
So if I dodge Glazen on reaction, I cannot really do anything.
No, if you dodge his zone attack on reaction, he will be able to feint his second part of his zone attack and still dodge your shoulder bash.
Okay. By the way, people asking in chat earlier if this is going to be recorded, or if this is going to, this is being recorded, or if it's going to be on YouTube. Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube. Everything's going to be there. So if you cannot, if you're liking it, and you can watch, or maybe someone else wants to watch, then it will be on YouTube probably tomorrow. I'll try to make it tomorrow. So sorry, just to answer that question. Okay, so against Glad, it's difficult, but is it unwinnable, would you say, or is it like winnable?
I wouldn't say it's unwinnable, but I would say it's slightly Gladiator favored, simply because of his zone attack. It's really hard to punish nonetheless.
Okay.
But we have to consider, like, Warden still has the higher damage output, pretty much. So his parry punishes are higher still. The only thing Gladiator really has that deals more damage than Warden is his deflect, because his deflect deals, I think, 50 damage if you do it properly. Something like that, yeah. Okay,
so again, in general, like with Warden, you seem to have to play at a distance in general, right? Yeah. Even against someone like Glad, but against Glad, they want to be next to you, so you want to be, first of all, because you're Warden, you want to be close to them, far away from them, and then also. If you're playing against Glad, you also want to be at a distance, so you kind of want to be as far away as possible while still being threatening at all, right? Okay, so is there any other matchup that you think is extremely important, or maybe different than the other matchups, or is that about it for 1v1?
I think that is about it, actually.
Okay, so now punishes. So when it comes to punishes, so things like light parry, you get a top heavy, heavy parry, you get a side heavy, side lights, you do not get a heavy side heavy. Oh, people are asking about Warlord matchup. I don't think that's a very important matchup because there's not many Warlords in the game, but if you could, I guess, talk about it very briefly.
Briefly go over it. So it's kind of similar to Kong. You want to keep your distance, of course, back dodge his headbutt. Because if you back dodge, you not only back dodge his heavy, his light, his headbutt, but you also get a free punish, of course. The thing is, with Warlords, Warlord has Crashing Charge, which is really annoying to deal with. So the thing is, Warlord will control the entire pacing of the fight and also the spacing.
Okay.
But important to note here is, every single time you dodge his Crashing Charge, you get a free shoulder bash. So the thing is, what you can do is, you can back dodge as soon as the Warlord gets kind of close to you. And if you time it properly, you can not only get a free shoulder bash, but you would also theoretically avoid HEB attempt and get another shoulder bash. So it kind of depends on your timing, kind of depends how the Warlord spaces it. And you can't really react to any of his options either. But for the most part, if you do the right reads, proper spacing, proper timings on your dodges, you can still win this matchup quite easily.
Okay. Alright, so that was the Warlord matchup that someone wanted. Someone wanted the Shinobi matchup. We're not talking about Shinobi on the show. Hate that character. Okay, so punishes. So with things like, obviously, we already talked about this. If you do a fully charged shoulder bash, you get a top heavy. When it comes to a guard break, if we can go to the wall here, I can get a side heavy, but if I'm next to a wall, I can just get a top heavy as well. But that's kind of obvious, I think, for most people. But what about out of stamina punishes? Because those I see a lot of people messing those up, like doing different things, like for example this dash heavy into the unblockable for some reason, things like that. So yeah, I was surprised when I saw that as well. So what do I want to do and how do I do it?
So before we go into that, I want to mention one thing that is rather important. If your opponent is in front of a wall and you throw them forward, and you don't have your guard top already, you won't get a top heavy if you're too close to the wall.
Oh, so you cannot change guard. Let's show this
Yes,
really
exactly.
quick.
The thing is, you will buffer your guard if you forward throw them. I don't think it's on back throw as well. Nah, it's only on forward throw.
Okay.
So if you forward throw me, you won't get a top heavy because it's buffered.
I see. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So you either have max distance, then you will get it guaranteed. But on a forward throw,
What about
usually
side
you
ones?
only get
Is
a
it
top heavy.
this?
On side ones, it's always guaranteed, pretty much.
Oh.
But you just mess it up. You just faint. You change your guard way too late. You have to change your guard during your throw. That was a forward
That was
throw.
a forward throw. Let's try again.
That was a back throw.
Oh, that was
Back
a
throw, it's kind of similar rules to forward throw.
Okay,
but
let's move away a little bit, maybe from the wall, because even it's all right. There we go.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Okay. So now the out of stamina punish. So
Yep.
I'm just gonna go out of stamina. You can guard break me and see.
So on the throws, you can get 2 heavies. Like, okay, I just messed it up. The thing is, if you throw your opponent, you have to have your guard on either the left or the right side. Throw them in the direction of your guard. That was messed up. Of your guard. And hold your movement key while doing so. It's kind of difficult to pull off because the input is really strict.
Okay.
Let me see. That was a side throw. You kind of have to throw him into southwest direction if you throw it into the left side.
Oh,
yeah, like this.
Okay, what about the out of stamina parries?
And out of stamina parries always guaranteed 2 side heavies. Like this.
Okay, so let me try now.
Mm-hmm.
First I'm gonna try the out of stamina parry. So
Okay.
okay, and there's no reason to do the unblockable, right? Because it's the same damage.
Yep, the
Okay.
unblockable deals the exact same damage, and it has a higher recovery, which makes it less of a teamfight tool. So to
Okay,
say.
so let's try again. I want to do the try the out of stamina punish again. Oh, this time the throw. Oh, I'm good.
You have to remember to you also hold your movement key. That was messed up. You don't want to throw them backwards, just sideways. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pull off. I fell it myself, as you saw.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep your guard on the side you're throwing, and also hold the movement keys while doing so.
Okay. I can make this work. I almost made this work. Okay, this is amazing.
It's a rather difficult punish because the input is really strict. The throw direction is correct, but I feel like.
There we go,
yeah,
easy.
There we go.
Okay, you can look at okay. I'm for YouTube. I'm just gonna edit this one, and that's the only one that matters. I got it the first time, by the way. So if you don't know exactly what happened there, well, you have my controller, so that's what happened. I just had it right there. So okay, so that's the punishes, yeah.
I also want to talk about the dash heavy into top unblockable.
Okay.
It guarantees 10 less damage than the 2 side heavies, but it's really consistent and really easy to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't feel comfortable doing this punish, I recommend doing dash heavy into side heavy, because the side heavy has less recovery, but deals the same amount of damage. So if you don't feel comfortable doing this punish, or you for some reason have your guard top while throwing, that can happen as well sometimes, you can just do your dash heavy into side heavy.
Okay.
So that's 10 less damage, but it's definitely still worth.
It's 10 less damage, but it's still what is it, 60, right?
Yeah, it's still 60 damage.
The proper out of stamina punish is the side heavy and the side heavy. That's 70 damage, and this dash heavy into side heavy is 60 damage. It's not the biggest difference, but it is better to do the other one.
Yep.
Okay. So I think about 1v1 in general, that's about it. This was about like 30 or so minutes, which is pretty good. So now we went through the punishes as well. So now 4v4. Let's go jump in a 4v4 game really quick. And I guess, okay, actually let me host the game really quick. Yes, gate, no bots, no gear stats, single pick. No damage, yeah, no damage, and all the feats immediately. Okay, there we go. So first let's start with feats that I want to have on Warden. So what do I want?
Yep. So for tier 1, you pretty much always want to use combat meme, because it will help you get your feats a lot quicker, which is important because your other feats are way more important than the other tier 1s. So for tier 2, Usually you could decide between Fiat Lux and Thick Blood, but nowadays it's only Thick Blood.
Okay.
I will get into that feat as soon as we start the game.
What about Inspire? What about Inspire? Is Inspire like just bad, or?
It's not like the worst feat ever, but it's compared to Thick Blood, it's really not that great because Thick Blood is definitely one of the best feats in the game right now, in my opinion.
Okay. For
tier 3, it's kind of preference. You can go for either Second Wind to heal yourself in a team fight or in a 1v1, for example, or you go for Pugno Mortis to deal damage with your bomb.
And then for tier 4, Morale Booster, right?
Yes, for tier 4, you always want to go for Morale Booster. Okay,
so Morale Booster is like, I don't remember the exact number. I think it's 50%, just 50% more damage, which is extremely strong.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a few things here. So for example, for tier 1, for Come At Me, do I want to ever use Body Count instead, or is it always Come At Me, would you say? Even in matchmaking?
Even in matchmaking, it kind of depends. For matchmaking, if you feel comfortable being in mid lane a lot, then sure, you can theoretically go for it for body count.
Okay.
But generally, I always recommend Come At Me because the amount of renown you get with Come At Me is so much higher than usual in every situation. So, for example, if you kill someone, you get a lot more renown. If you kill minions, you get like, I think 3 renown per kill or so. Let me check. You get 3 renown per kill, yep.
Yeah.
And exactly, and the thing is, you can use it in pretty much every situation. You can use it in for example, if you outnumber your opponents in a team fight, so let's say it's 4v2 or 4v3, you can use it to get some kills and get a lot of renown early on, or you can...
And health as well, right? Because it heals you.
Yeah,
if you kill a character, if anyone doesn't know that, if you kill a hero while having Come At Me on, it kind of works like Bounty Hunter. It doesn't heal as much, but it does heal.
Yep.
Okay.
The important thing is, if you use it in minion lane, minions will deal quite a bit of damage to you, which means usually you want to go heal after you cleared the minions with Come At Me.
Okay.
But the important thing is here, usually in competitive plays, you already have a designated mid character, for example, the Bushi or Lawbringer. So you can get a lot of renown and your feats really quickly if you use Come At Me either for revives or if you use it for boosting. So for example, if you capture a point, you can, I think you get like 15 or 20% only for capturing the point, and then you can stay on the point for as long as your Come At Me lasts.
Yeah, which is 30 seconds, by the way.
Exactly. And get like 70, 80, sometimes 90% of your progression bar to your next feat.
Okay, that's great, yeah. Alright, so that's tier 1. So basically, anytime you want to do anything regarding renown, for example, it works on the revives as well, right? So for example, anytime, if you have Come At Me ready, anytime you're about to revive someone, you might use Come At Me because it gives you a lot. Anytime you boost a zone, anytime you capture a zone, for example, just use it. You're gonna get a lot of renown, and then just keep standing there. Same with minions, right? Unless there's like a lot of people there, of course. And it heals you if you kill a hero. Okay, so now tier 2. You have the choice between Inspire, Fiat Lux, and Thick Blood. So for competitive, you would say always Thick Blood, right? But what about So Thick Blood, what it does is it pretty much neuters shaman ganks, pretty much useless against Warden because it heals heals bleed damage, and it also works against, for example, Nobushi, of course, any bleed in the game, so that's extremely strong. But what about like matchmaking, right? So if there's no shaman maybe on the other team, this is matchmaking. Maybe they don't know how to gank or something like that. So would I want to have Inspire or Fiat Lux there?
I would still recommend Thick Blood.
Okay.
Yep. The thing is with Fiat Lux, you can't clear minions with it anymore. You can kind of argue it puts your opponent out of stamina and you can pressure them with a shoulder bash, but I don't think that's a strong enough argument to say it's better than Thick Blood, because with Thick Blood, like you said, Inabushi will have a difficult time dealing damage to you, so will a PK, so will a Shaman, so will any character that deals bleed damage, right?
Yeah, also Sharpen Blade as well is...
Yeah, Sharpen Blade as well, so... And Fire Trap and Fire Flask as well.
Yeah, because it also works against fire damage, not only bleed. So that's a lot of feats that cannot do as much damage to you. Same with... what is it? Like the axe, I guess, for shaman, if any shaman ever runs that, or nail bomb as well. same thing. So those just don't deal much damage to you then. Okay.
Exactly. I will always recommend Thick Blood, even
Okay.
in matchmaking.
So about tier 3, we have Takedown. So we have Second Wind and we have Pugna Mortis. Right, so Second Wind heals, I think it's 40 health, and it cleanses bleed as well. So it's like, on top of Thick Blood, you can also heal, and the cleansing of bleed is not as important there, because you already have Thick Blood. But the 40 health, that makes it so that you have 165 health on demand.
Yep.
So you're 165. That's more than a Lawbringer has, for example, right? So that's a lot of health that you have. And you will always pretty much get revenge if you use it, right, with Second Wind. So you would rather have Second Wind than Pugna, right? Or would you say there's some situations where you would want Pugna as well? Whether in matchmaking or in competitive as well, because this is for both, I would say.
I think for both, it kind of depends on your preference, but it also can kind of depend on the comp you're running. So the thing is, if you play, for example, without a Lawbringer, it's okay to have Pugna Mortis because you can use it to clear minions with it. But I think the most important part here is it has a really good synergy with Moral Booster, because Moral Booster also boosts the damage of your feats. So from Pugna as well. So if you use Moral Booster in combination with your Pugna, you can almost one-shot every character in the game, which can easily win you a team fight. So it kind of depends on your preference. Do you want Second Wind and survive longer, get revenge maybe 2 to 3 times in a single fight or a gank, and maybe win this set gank because it's really difficult to gank a Warden? Or do you want to go for team fight damage with Pugna? So I say either works. It's really just preference. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So there, by the way, I activated Come Out Me. I killed like 7 minions. I went to control a point. I controlled it, and then I waited there for a little bit until Come At Me run out, and I got an entire level of feat. So of course we all have our feats already unlocked, but you can still see how much renown I get, which is it's a lot of renown, right? So pretty much every game you should be very, very high on the scoreboard, right, on your team, you'd say, in matchmaking. Thanks to Come At Me, and how much more renown you get, how much more score you get with it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you should have a rather high renown score. That is true. But the thing is, if your team doesn't really win fights, it's going to be difficult for the Warden to actually take advantage of Come At Me, because if you're not able to boost points or not able to kill minions, you won't really get renown. So.
But on the other hand, okay, so I understand that. But on the other hand, Warden is like the one character where you almost always should have your feats every game, almost, right? Unless of course, unless it's like 1,000 to 100, it's a complete mess. But every game you should be able to play with your feats at least, right?
Yes, definitely. You should pretty much in every game you should at least reach tier 3. It can happen that you don't reach your tier 4. That is very much possible. That can have many reasons. Either the game is going way too fast. If you just 1,000 to 100 them, that's very much possible. But for the most part, you definitely want to reach your tier 3.
Okay.
That's pretty much always a must.
Okay, so for tier 4, you started talking about Morale Booster, but just to make sure, Morale Booster is a 50%. Is it the global, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a global 50% damage buff to your team. It's for you and your allies as well, and it lasts 30 seconds. So it's the same as Fear itself, for example. This is what it looks like, and it's insane amounts of damage. Of course, we have damage off right now, so I cannot tell. I'm gonna show you. But if you have, for example, Pugna Mortis, that Pugna will be doing like what, 90 damage, something like that, something insane like that.
I think it's about 90. Yeah.
Yeah, your side heavies will be, your top heavies will be doing 60.
Yep. 64 to be precise.
64 even. Oh yeah, because it's 55%, right? It's 55, I think, right? Not 50.
I think so.
So yeah, either way, it's a shit ton of damage. The exact number doesn't exactly matter as much, but it's a shit ton of damage. So Morale Booster is extremely strong late game, and even pre-Warden rework, Warden was okay in for simply to do his feats, and how strong he was, for example, in combination with Lawbringer, who has very good ganks and extremely good feats, which then work very well with Morale Booster, right?
Yep.
Okay. So morale booster also, I think you said this already, but I guess I just said it as well. But it also boosts the damage of feats.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's really strong. So even if you're playing by yourself, you will still be helping your team. Even in solo queue, you will still be helping your team. If you have morale booster up for 30 seconds. Okay, so I think that's about it for feats. I think that took a while. So what about other aspects of 4v4, like team fighting, maybe playstyle in general, maybe positioning, something like that? What do I want to be doing as Warden?
So the thing is with Warden, in 4v4, you don't really want to use your shoulder bashes way too much, because like we discovered earlier, you leave yourself vulnerable to attacks whenever you go for a shoulder bash.
And also revenge, right?
And revenge as well, yeah. Bashes feel a lot of revenge. But the thing is, Warden, like we said, can chain his zone attack into a heavy. And if you chain into a heavy and feint the heavy, your recovery frames are a lot lower, which means you can zone attack, chain into a heavy, feint it, and still block most attacks. So if a Kensei tries to punish you for a zone attack, you can usually, or an Ibushi with Cobras, you can usually feint the heavy and still block the attack. I wouldn't really recommend trying to go for the parry, because the parry timing is really strict after the feint, but it's really easy to block attacks. So what you usually want to do is, you kind of want to stay behind the lines pretty much, stay behind your allies, and then try to punish recoveries. So let's say an Ibushi threw a zone attack, or a Sidewinder, or a Highlander just went for an attack, or whatever, someone attacked, right? And you will try to punish their recoveries with your zone attack, and then chain into your heavy immediately to make sure you don't get punished yourself, right?
Okay. So what about my zone attack then? Sorry, not a zone attack. Sorry, what about my dash attack? Do I want to be using
so your dash attack, yes, you do. Your dash attack has a really good range. So it tracks really, really far, as we can see. The thing is with it is, if someone tries to go to heal, right, you can usually stop that. So if you see someone is low, you can kind of push forward, not too far, because if you push too far, you will leave yourself vulnerable again.
Okay.
But you can kind of push in, tell your teammates, yo, someone's trying to heal, and tell them to keep the other 3 people off you. Then you can push to this person with your dash heavy and stop his runaway pretty much.
Okay.
So that's what I mostly use it for. But there's also certain moves that are easier to punish with your dash heavy than with your zone attack.
Yeah, also your dash heavy has more reach than the zone, right?
Yes, it has a lot more reach, and the thing is, it has obviously more forward tracking, while your zone has more side tracking. So the important part here is, if you, for example, you're on the left side of an Ibushi, and then Ibushi just went for a Sidewinder, you can punish this Sidewinder pretty much consistently with your dash heavy, because they will try to side dodge to cancel their recovery. But if you're on their side and they side dodge, you will track it anyways, because for you it's like a back dodge, right?
Okay.
It's still in one line. So if you position yourself correctly, you can punish certain moves a lot easier with the dash heavy as well. So it requires practice. You will have to keep an eye open for those. But it will come with time, and it will make your life a lot easier.
Okay, so that's team fights. I want to be kind of punishing people, not really doing much myself if there's nothing happening, right? Don't want to be using shoulder bash too much, because first of all, that gives revenge. Second of all, well, it has enough... it has a lot of recovery, so I could just be punished. But what about just positioning in general in the game? What do I want to be doing in the game? Do I just want to be sitting in mid, maybe ganking, or maybe just roaming around? What do I want to be doing?
So Warden's pretty diverse when it comes to rotations and positioning, pretty much. So Warden can pretty much take any role he likes. So if he wants to be in a gank, he can do that. While Warden ganks aren't the most effective ganks, they do still work with your shoulder bash. It's still very much possible. Most of the time they will get revenge at least once, but if you do it right, usually after this one revenge you can kill and finish them off.
Okay.
You can obviously take every single 1v1. Every single 1v1 is winnable for the Warden. You can be in 2v2s or bigger team fights. Warden can always contribute a lot to those. But what Warden can also do, while he's not the fastest character, he can still go for backcaps. He's not the slowest.
Yeah, he's not slow at all.
Yeah, he has alright speed. Of course, it's not PK or Shaman speed, it's not comparable to those, but it's still fast enough to go for a backcap. The thing is, Warden can't really be ganked once he has his tier 2 feat, which means you can easily stall 2 people while your team gets the rest of the map. So let's say they have for example, you get triple capped or they have 2 points. Warden can just say, okay, I will go for a back cap, either cap the point or stall 1 or 2 people there. If it's 1 person, you can kill them in a 1v1. If it's 2 people, you can easily stall them while your team gets the rest of the map. So Warden can pretty much do whatever he likes.
Okay. So in team fights, I want to be kind of punishing in terms of, I guess, running around the map. I can just kind of do anything I want. But obviously it depends on the playstyle of the person, right? So if you really like, for example, 1vx or just 1v1s, like being by yourself, you can do it. But if you like being in team fights more, maybe controlling the map with minions, with controlling zones as well, maybe moving around the map, taking zones with come at me, right? You're going to be getting a lot of renown, so you can do that as well. Okay. So that's the playstyle for 4v4. That's the feats that we already talked about. Is there anything more about 4v4 that you want to talk about with Warden?
I don't think there's anything other Warden specific. Of course, there's like the normal things you should know, like things you don't want to gank someone 3v1. That's a bad rotation, of course. But I don't think there's anything Warden specific that we have to cover.
Okay, so alright. So the most important attacks for me in 4v4 are going to be zone and the dash attack, right? In terms of team fights and things like that. And then, of course, in 1v1, I can use the shoulder bash, I'm sure. But what about things like the unblockable? Do I ever want to use that or not? Like, isn't it unblockable?
The only time I found myself using the top unblockable was when I played against Conqueror. Because Conqueror can all guard or zone attack, which means you can attack him with usual attacks. But you can deal with those tools with your top unblockable. Sure, it's slow, it's really reactable, but for a conk, it's rather difficult to deal with it because it can catch him off guard while he tries to zone attack or while he tries to all guard after shield bash, for example. And since it can be chained after your zone attack, maybe you punish someone and they see the conk right next to you, and you can just throw an unblockable onto him and throw him completely off if he overextends. Okay.
So when it comes to also things like when's guaranteed, so for example, if someone's in a really long recovery, then I can use it as well, right? Because if I do this side heavy, they're not going to be able to parry it, but they might not be able to they might be able to block it. But if I do the unblockable, well, of course it's unblockable, right? So they're not going to be able to block it. So if there's someone's in a big recovery, like long recovery, I can do that. Okay,
it's very situational, but it's possible.
Okay. So so in team fights, again, zone, dash attack, and those are your main tools.
Yeah, and it's always important that you chain your zone attack into a heavy.
Yeah, make sure to chain your attacks. Okay, so I think when it comes to 4v4, that's about it, right?
Yep.
So if anyone in chat, if you're watching this on YouTube, well then I might end the guide here, or I might just keep going with the questions. So if anyone on Twitch watching right now has any questions about the Warden specifically that they would like to ask Setmyx, or maybe we didn't explain something well enough, then this is going to be your time. You can start asking some questions if you have any. And if not, that's probably going to be it from us. So let's wait a little bit if there are any questions. And if not, then what about hard feint to GB? Oh, you're asking. Oh, yeah, that's actually something that we forgot to talk about. So let's end the game right here.
Okay.
Well, the game is going to end itself. There we go. Can you have a fast way to clear minions with Warden? Zone and heavy chain are slow. Well, the zone clears minions pretty well, right?
Yeah, zone attack clears minions pretty well. People say you can use sidelights, but that's not really a thing anymore, since its rework is hitboxes have been fixed. So what you can do is unlocked light, heavy, because for some reason that clears minions really well. So you can clear minions out of log actually, and I think Warden is the only character able to do that because his animations aren't really long.
Okay. Well, Shinobi has that as well. It's like insane.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so something that we forgot to talk about, or I guess I forgot to just ask you about. What about, do I ever want to use in 1v1 or in anything else? Do I ever want to use shoulder bash, hard feinted, and guard break? Is that ever a thing or not?
It's very situational. The thing is, if someone dodges really early, usually the charged shoulder bash tracks it anyways.
Okay.
But the thing is, sometimes the people dodge on level 1 shoulder bash, wait for movement, and then go for a roll. So what I tend to do is, if I know, okay, they will probably try to roll my shoulder bash, you can hard feint into a guard break because that's not what they are going to expect, right? And you get a guard break, which means you get 30 damage, which is 10 more damage than your dash heavy. So you can do that occasionally. You don't want to do it too often, because if you do it too often, it gets predictable, which means you will be vulnerable to, for example, a heavy.
Okay, so do I ever want to, for example, go fully charge and then guard break, or is it only on level 1? I assume it's only on level 1, right?
It is only level 1, yes. It's really, really difficult to get a guard break on level 3 feint into level 3 feint into guard break. It's really not easy to pull off, especially since there is 600 MS side dodge recovery. So if you really want to use it, only use it on level 1 shoulder bash.
Okay. And then someone in chat is asking, wouldn't it be good to use hard feint into guard break if they're out of stamina? You know, obviously for a lot more damage, or no?
No, not really. The thing is, if they're out of stamina, that means they can't roll anyways, right? So usually they will try to either dodge level 1 or level 3. So if they dodge early on level 1 timing, you get a free charge shoulder bash, which is 40 damage. If they don't dodge, you can just go for a level 1 shoulder bash and get 18 damage over and over.
So
and you have to keep in mind, one uncharged shoulder bash is 18 damage. So if you get 2 of those, you already have 36, which is almost a charged shoulder bash. So it's definitely worth going for those as well.
Okay, so my question is, if, for example, they're out of stamina, or let's say they don't roll for some reason, but let's assume you're out of stamina in this situation. If I start a shoulder bash and they dodge on level 1, can I react to that and do, for example, a charge shoulder bash, or maybe a level 2 shoulder bash, or is that not possible?
If you go into your shoulder bash, you can react to their dodges, definitely. So, for example, you see, it's really not difficult to react to it. I can just let go for it every single time I see your dodge. Or go for level 2 shoulder bash.
Okay, so let's try this. Like, I'm gonna dodge on level 1 and then you just do a level 3. Let's see if this works. I think I dodged a little bit too early. Okay, so that was more on a reaction to orange, and that didn't work. So then, as a warden now, you're capable of doing it on a reaction. So let's try this.
Okay, I dodged right into you.
Yeah. Right. So let's say you don't roll. For example, out of stamina. Yeah, there we go. Yep. So I can react to you dashing, and then I can wait and charge it a little bit more. So for example, if you're playing against warden as well, you have to be careful not to dodge too early, because then, of course, the warden can react to you dodging, especially on early timing. And then as well, there's the sliding, let's say, which is really, really good. Okay, so are there any questions rather than that? Is Warden backdash shoulder bash faster than a regular backdash? Yes, we already responded to that at the very beginning, I think. Setmyx said that it is quicker recovery, right? If you do backdash like that, right?
Yep.
That's quicker recovery.
It's really early in the back dodge, and if you fainted, you have a lot lower recovery frames because you bypass a lot of the recovery frames of the actual back dodge. So yeah.
Okay, so someone's asking in chat what changes you would want for Warden to either nerf or buff him, or whatever other things you would like for the kit. And this is not necessarily about the guide itself, but I think there's no other questions at this point, so you could answer that, and then we can just be done for the day.
Yeah, we can do that. The thing is, I think balance-wise, Warden is really, really good, but I don't think he's a lot of fun to play against or even to play it in a 1v1. So what I would do is I would probably nerf some damage values. For example, on a dash heavy, instead of 20, make it deal 15 damage. For a shoulder bash, a lot of people say the slide isn't good for the character and it's just toxic, but in my opinion, it has to stay because it makes a shoulder bash unreactable. It forces a reaction every single time. And that not only do you open yourself up, but also your opponent, which makes the game a lot faster and a lot more enjoyable. But the thing is, I don't want a character to only have one single move. And right now, shoulder bash is the only offensive tool Warden has. So what I would love to do is to give his side heavy chains another property. For example, what I would love to see is side heavy chain finishers either have hyper armor, so you can trade after your zone attack or after your dash heavy, or make them undodgeable, so you track dodges with it. It will make Warden a lot more enjoyable, especially in team modes. But for 1v1s, it's really difficult to make the character more enjoyable because if you buff him in an offensive way, you will overtune him. So you will have to tune down his shoulder bash. And I'm really not sure how I would nerf his shoulder bash without ruining it. So I would really have to think about this a lot more.
Okay, so I think that's about it for the guide. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you have any questions for the future, any I guess requests on what characters you would like to have, then please make those in the comments on YouTube, or of course in Twitch chat right now. If you yeah, right now someone asked if this will be uploaded to YouTube. Yes, it will be uploaded to YouTube tomorrow. At least I'll try my best to make it tomorrow. So this will be uploaded on YouTube on Saturday every week. So this is going to be this is going to be a weekly thing. If you want to kind of be able to participate and interact, you want to watch it on Twitch, so you can ask questions and we can answer those questions with the coach or the instructor, I don't know, with the person who's teaching me the character. Next week, I'm thinking it might be either Kensei or Bulk because it is a reworked character, so because of that I'm thinking it might be Bulk. But it might be Kensei, for example, as well, because Kensei is extremely popular. So we'll see what character is going to be. I think I might even make a poll. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll check the description, because I might have a poll, and I might have it on Twitch soon as well. So I'm going to be asking you guys what hero you want. Right, so that's about it. Setmyx, thank you for being here. And do you have any shoutouts, maybe you stream or something like that?
Can I be toxic?
Sure, I can edit it out.
Okay, I want to shout out Legion for being garbage at the game.
Okay.
Thanks. That's pretty much it.
So you don't stream it. You had this chance with hopefully many people watching on Twitch, maybe. I don't know. But hopefully all the people watching on YouTube, and you chose, rather than advertise yourself, you chose to... Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next week.